Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
How's your feet doing?
Oh, sore.
Did you plan to finish a 46-kilometer walk with a very large uphill incline?
I did not.
No, I don't think that was a good idea.
No, it wasn't planned, and it was a hike, not a walk. That's offensive. Okay, it was a hike. It wasn't a walk.
Mark, yesterday, get this. His charity, Everest in Edmonton, yes. Him and Sean Obrowski, our friend of the show, walked 46 kilometers in Edmonton. Yeah, hiked. Sorry.
Hiked, yeah.
You got lost at one point, too.
On purpose, yeah. We needed the extra. We needed the extra kilometers.
Let's get lost in this forest here. There's some forested areas in Edmonton.
It's quite incredible. It really is. It's beautiful.
So,
but
46 kilometers. How do you feel?
Well, today I feel better, but it was extremely painful. It was grueling. The word grueling, I'm going to underline. And we raised $11,500 for breast cancer. So that was kind of a big deal.
That's pretty incredible.
Big deal. Everest in Edmonton, everybody. This thing's going to blow.
Is it going to happen again?
Yes. And you know what I did today too? I registered Everest in Vancouver.
Oh, that's smart too.
Yeah.
Although Everest in Edmonton does sound really awesome.
Yes, it's got a cool ring to it. But Everest in Vancouver,
that's a great idea.
Because I love hiking there. My beautiful daughter lives there, and we're gonna probably do one there once a year too as well.
Well, that's amazing, and congratulations to you and Sean. Congratulations.
Thank you, buddy.
Also, they raised $11,000 for breast cancer research, which is of course amazing. My father passed away of cancer, so I know it's very close to many people in the world, so thank you for doing that.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, well, we do have an amazing show for you today, of course. However, first, if you're around, we want to thank our tremendous friend of the show, Toss Ricketts, because he just sent us those beautiful jerseys that you're looking at.
Yes, Vancouver Whitecaps, baby.
Vancouver Whitecaps.
You're looking at your two biggest fans right now.
That's right.
Our guy, Toss Ricketts.
Be careful. You let us on that field. You let us on the sidelines there.
Do not.
You're the opposing. You better, because I've already been dubbed the Drake of the Canadian Elite Basketball League. So
100%. That's a fact.
If you want some Zinedine Zidanes on the sideline of the Whitecaps, just give us a call. And
we got our jerseys.
We got the jerseys already. Toss, thank you for sending those out. That's amazing.
Very cool, Toss.
Also, if you're in Edmonton, Hampton Market, Windermere, Boston Pizzas are ready for you to come visit, because we're allowed to go and hang out a little bit now. Some of the restrictions being lifted a bit, so
get the lasagna.
Get the lasagna. Feels good to get out there, hit the lounge, watch some sports on the big screen.
Get it,
And it's a big weekend for sports, actually. Big weekend.
Hampton Windermere, both. Yeah.
And head down there. We have an incredible guest today. We'll come right back after the break with him. But until then, I just have to say this: why, oh why, did JJ Watt have to come to my division?
It's unbelievable.
Poor Russell Wilson.
Poor.
Come on, Seahawks. Get your act together.
You need some 300-pounders. You need some 300-pounders in front of them.
We'll be right back on the Me and Jesse podcast.
Get ready. It's time for the Me and Jesse podcast with Mark Pavlich and Jesse Martineau.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Me and Jesse podcast. We are joined by Robin Black, MMA. Robin, welcome to the show. How you doing tonight?
Hey, good. I was looking forward to hanging with you guys. I really was. I saw Mark when we were in Edmonton, and it was a delight. And I'm just happy to be hanging with you guys.
Well,
Listen, how does that happen? How does someone go from Pinawa, Manitoba to where you are today? No, it's driving me nuts. You know what's crazy? All the things I've known you for what, 15 years probably?
Yeah. 2006. Yeah.
Okay, 2006. Yeah. And then I start doing research because you've interviewed me before, but I've never interviewed you before. It's almost bizarre because you went from Pinawa to Toronto to I can actually say in the top half dozen people that I actually would listen to talk about MMA, right?
Wow.
And so how did that step come from Pinawa to Toronto? But there was a weird drive inside of you. Like everybody's like, oh, there's Robin Black. He's really funny. He's such a nice guy. But there's something else inside of you that made you where you are today sitting.
Yeah. I've always had a work ethic, but only with things I'm into. Like I won't work hard. I won't work hard at shit that I'm not driven to. But if it's something that is passionate, like if it's something meaningful to me or it's something I'm deeply curious about, I'm on it to the death, you know? And it's crazy to say it. Like I felt like I had something to say and I felt like I was going somewhere. And I always felt like I was on some kind of path to figure out something. And I had to chase it. Like I had to follow it. And, but it's little at a time. You're a little kid and if you're lucky enough to have some people encourage you, then you're ahead of some people. And if you're lucky enough to stumble onto somebody else who encourages you a bit more, I was a hyperactive, weird kid. And the only thing I was interested in was gymnastics at first, and then high diving, and then martial arts. And that was it. Nothing else would calm the sounds. And my parents are great parents. My dad's dad he passed away, but he could spell one word. He had a grade 3 education max. He could spell one word, and it was his name. And his name was Ed. So he had two letters. And my dad went and literally went to PhD level as an educator. So I had parents, and my mother grew up she was born in Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe, in Africa. Her parents, it's nebulous. Maybe they were missionaries or in the military. I don't know. There's always been a strange sort of holes in the story from my mother, both my parents are alive. And then at like 18, she went off and joined the army and went to Hong Kong. And then they lived in Wales, and she went to Hong Kong, and she went to Cyprus and all over the world, and then ended up in Canada. So I had two parents who were strivers and chasers and risk takers and did things that nobody in their family had ever done. And I think they kind of taught me that really young.
Well, that's something that has to be taught really young because it's something that is ingrained into your DNA almost you get. Mark and I have talked about this a lot because Mark and I can be very obsessive about things, which I think that you might relate to. So
yeah, I do.
So, you get on that thing, and sometimes my wife goes crazy because some of the hobbies, you do them like crazy for a little while and then you drop it. But when you find the thing that sticks, when you find the thing that is the sweet spot, it is like nothing other. And I want to say, when I look at your Instagram feed, when I look at your videos that you make, when I hear the passion and the humor and honestly the brilliance behind the posts, you could tell that this is what the sweet spot is for you.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you. If I'm good at things now, and I think there's a lot of people who tell me that I am, and I feel like I am, but I also feel like I hope that in 10 years I look at what I'm doing now,
100%.
The way I look at things from 10 years ago, and I was nowhere. And I think I was nowhere. But all it is a result of a craftsman's mindset. A craftsman does the fucking work a lot over and over for the joy of the work. Yeah. And if you do it long enough, you will get better.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be able to fill the role. Joe Rogan is a close friend and I admire him greatly, but I never wanted to be like him or anybody else who's really good. Sure. I wanted to figure out how to, and in fact, I was looking for ways to see it different. And I've always been like that. I'm an early adopter, and I'm curious, and I'm skeptical, and I'm skeptical of my own thoughts. And Mark and I talked about this. I'm not really interested in anyone's opinion, especially my own.
I thought that was such a bizarre statement. You know what I mean? Because most people are interested in their own self-awareness, but their own belief all the time. And when you said that to me, I was like, that's the weirdest thing I ever heard, because I've never heard it before. Like, everybody's so, stuck on that one thing that
absolutely.
They're
it
just
actually
so
can hurt us too, can't it?
Definitely.
Big time.
Definitely.
So I like to read. I think, I like to learn things outside of my space. And the more you study whatever you do, you watch things or read things outside of your space, and they inform the thing. And I was reading a book called Mastery by a guy named Robert Greene. Robert Greene wrote the 48 Laws of Power.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. And I'd actually had never read that. And in fact, we talked about that when I saw you, that I'd never read it, but I intend to. I understand what it is. It's not saying that's good or bad. It's just saying the world works this way. You should definitely understand the world. But Mastery, he looked at all of these people's lives and then used that to draw kind of conclusions of sort of superpowers that he'd learned from them. And one was something called a negative capability, which is developing the ability to sit in uncertainty for very long periods of time.
My God.
To be
uncomfortable.
Then to almost become comfortable with being uncomfortable, not knowing.
Yeah.
And so the way he explained it, after examining all these brilliant people like Charles Darwin, like high level, Einstein, to develop the theory of relativity, he sat in a state of not knowing for 10 years.
Wow.
10 years, because if he thought he knew, he would get trapped in that belief.
Yeah.
And then he would have never been able to figure it out. So the way he phrased it was, he was like, humans are super fragile creatures, and we need to feel like we know.
Yes.
And so when you think about the mechanics,
and I'm talking about music, I'm talking about MMA. If you could do just one, because if your mind works like the obsessiveness we're talking about here now, not passion. I always say that to people. Passion's for pussies. Okay, we're talking. I'm talking about obsessed. Because if you want to talk about, I'm passionate about this little thing here, this little thing, but
I'm passionate about Pinterest.
Boom. There you go. Check. But you're obsessed, right? And so to be obsessed, if you could pick only one, someone came and told you, okay, Robin, this is it, just one. Music, MMA. Which one would you pick?
So I don't even really like MMA that much as I once did, but I'll carry that sentence on and say I am obsessed with martial arts. And if I could do nothing else in the world, it would be martial arts. And in fact, now when I listen to music or study music, it's to understand martial arts different. I did a post yesterday about an off-rhythm timing punch, and I used a time signature, and I counted the time through it, and sort of on the downbeat. I study music to understand humans fighting more. I look at a painting and see what I can draw from it about humans fighting. And fighting I love, martial arts I love, but ultimately it's about how humans move that I'm the most interested in. So I'm curious about how people climb or free dive or do gymnastics or any of those things. But I think it's the ultimate when the two intentional movements are dynamically opposed to each other. Two dance partners with conflicting objectives. I just don't think there's anything more fascinating to me than that.
That's incredible.
But movement. It's about movement for you, right? It has to be about movement. And that's more like a Bruce Lee mentality, because most people don't understand the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, but Bruce Lee his whole mentality was movement. It wasn't so much about striking, kicking, or kneeing. It was the movement to get to those spots. And most people, when you talk like that, they don't understand it, because unless you've read the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, unless you've studied Bruce Lee, you can't understand what you just said. I'm being honest. You can't.
You're right. And that has been a lot of the challenge. So I'm in a period right now of a lot of and I love these periods that always grow, where there is tension or friction, where I'm like, something is hard right now. Something's very difficult. And what is difficult right now is I'm seeing things in a particular way that happens when you do, never mind 10,000. We are like 10,000 hours and you're a master. Fuck that. Right. What happens at 20,000? What happens at 30,000? That's the path I'm on. And I want to know
Oh no, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
You know what happens though? Is it dangerous though? Is that a dangerous thing though, Robin? Because because I was there when I owned the MFC.
Yeah.
And when they would say, oh, it's Christmas, let's open presents. I'm like, what? Like, I don't want to do that, man. Like that's distracting me from over here, you know, what's over that way. Yeah. And what happens is whoever you're with, if they don't understand that, you're going to be by yourself eventually. And I was lucky to have my wife that said, okay, I know he's nuts, but I'm going to jump in with him. And so that she could do the little bit with me. Maybe she wasn't obsessed about what I was doing, but she was there to kind of like be next to me to make sure I didn't fall off the bridge. You know what I mean?
That's right. I have the same thing. My wife is exactly like Manon.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky people, very lucky people. But I do know that I have also carved out not only time and attention, but I've started to purposefully, when I'm studying martial arts, learn lessons that make me a better husband, or learn lessons that will make me a better, you know, I don't have kids yet, but we're going to, that's the plan. And I'm getting older, but she is younger than I, so we can. And she's 17 years younger than I am. Check. So that can happen. But so it'll make you a better father, make you a better friend. Yeah. I'm trying to learn that. And you mentioned Bruce Lee, who I have tattooed on my body twice, in fact.
Yeah.
And he studied, and I believe, if you study anything to this degree, it will begin to, the lines between the thing and you and your life and you being a husband and a friend and stuff will all blur. And Bruce Lee saw it as being an artist of life.
Yes.
Yeah. That he was, you know, yes, he was a martial artist by trade and by love and whatever, but he was using it to become a better, more actualized human. And that's how I'm trying to live. You won't succeed all the time, but that's the goal.
That's very interesting, actually, because that is what I try to explain to people all the time about me. I create videos for a living as well. And for me, I put in so much of myself into that it does encompass the rest of my life. If I'm not feeling good in this one area, the creation on the other side actually is affected. And to have all those things, and in some ways it's a blessing, in some ways it's a curse, because you're stuck sometimes in the middle. But I think the point that you're saying about not listening to the own mindset of your own criticisms or even praise is a key to actually unlock some of that stuff a little bit more. When you're making videos, when you're looking at the pictures, when you're looking at people moving, what is it that's going through your head? Some people don't get this, I think, because they think, oh, he's just a funny guy. He's just trying to make funny things. He draws little lines on things. But there's something more profound going on, isn't there?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm seeing I believe the secrets to the universe are within these sacred moments of combat. Wow. I believe that.
Yeah.
Like when I'm seeing it, I think I'm understanding the universe. I feel like I'm understanding that it's the secret to all things. I believe also that somebody who, you know, is it a blacksmith who makes like metal weapons?
Yeah.
That they feel that too.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. I know where you're going here.
Yeah. And that you do too, if you're a filmmaker, and that people who paint can feel that, and people who build furniture or whatever, you know, I believe you can find that connection to something larger by going deep.
But do you find, but Robin, do you find out that it maybe took you a little longer to actually monetize? Wait a second, because you know what happens, guys. I'm talking. Listen, this is the first time in history we have 3 kooks on one show. Okay, all 3 of us. I know Robin very well, and when I say kooks, I mean this in the most respectful way, because I'm calling myself a kook. Okay,
I take it as a compliment.
I do. Trust me, I mean it as one. Okay, but what I'm trying to get across is that to monetize what you do is so hard, because you're so obsessed with what you're doing that you forget, maybe I should be making money with this. And how long has that took for you to get to that point? Because I know for you, it took a long time in MMA world to monetize it where you were compensated correctly.
Yes, it did. And there were different chapters of it. And I understood it and viewed it different at different times. So to me, there was wave one, like my early thing is I was fighting to get the next level of understanding. And I actually thought fighting 1 or 2 times would let me see it different, this thing I was into, this martial arts, that it would let me see it different. And I thought, I want to commentate it. I want to explain it. I was already working a bit in TV. I figured if I fought 1 or 2 times, I would understand it different, and they would respect me.
Yeah. Did that work?
Well, they did. You did earn their respect over time.
Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand it. Like 2 fights made me understand it less.
Right.
It actually made me realize, oh my God, anything I thought I knew about this was all entirely wrong. And all I've learned is everything I thought I knew was wrong. Like I knew I fought 9 times as a professional, and I was left at the end with the knowledge that nobody knows shit about this thing at all. And if I dedicate my life to it, I may understand it in a different way, but it was even more fascinating. So then I went to work I had a few small kind of jobs, commentary and stuff. Then I went to work for a company where I first met Mark, maybe even I met you before even, but Fight Network. It still exists. It was it was or is a 24-hour combat sports channel. Yeah, exactly.
You gave me this 15 years ago. It's
That's
the only
so cool.
It's the only MMA paraphernalia I have left. I have nothing. I have this. Look at guys.
Notice it's a sumo and
like you squeeze it.
Martial arts. MMA to me, I'm
me too.
happy. It's particularly Bellator who I work with, who I really like, and TSN is just working there is so cool because when I was a kid, I would have never thought I'd get to work in a channel like that.
Yeah, of course.
So I love working there, but in my hobby time outside of analyzing MMA, it is my obsession with all the other martial arts, commentating sumo and all these things. But so 24-hour Fight channel was there, and I made a really good living in the U.S. Joe Rogan called Dana White and said, you should pay this guy to do stuff for us. And I was doing that at the same time. And I made good money.
Yeah.
And then the UFC got sold, and I had no contract. I just kind of did stuff. And so the guy I worked for was gone. So that money went away. And then Fight Network closed down their entire digital creation department in 2017, which in retrospect, no judgment, but in retrospect, that was really dumb.
Yeah.
Right? You know,
Yeah.
and there'll be the discussion will go a million ways when they look back on it, but it should go no other way other than whatever it cost us to keep that going, people are paying triple that to build what we already had.
Yes,
now.
100%.
Yeah.
So that has to be considered a terror. I don't know if the people who made that decision below the owner are still there. If they are, then good on them that somehow they were able to survive that. But so that happened, and then I had nothing. I literally had nothing.
Wow.
I had no job. I got a lot of emails from people and texts and stuff saying, don't worry, man, this will be the best thing that ever happened to you. And I tried to believe that, but I was terrified.
That's tough.
Of course.
So I went home, and within 48 hours, I started a YouTube channel. Now, and the work I had done, fortunately, helped. Joe Rogan was a big ally and supporter. And so when I put out my first thing, he was like, check out my friend Robin's YouTube channel. I had 5,000 followers.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and then I had an Instagram, but I never used it, and I had no followers. And I bought an iPad, and I was like, okay, I don't know how to edit. I don't know. When I built my breakdowns at Fight Network, there were 7 people working.
Yes.
Lighting, camera, director, producer, sound, editor before, editor after. I didn't have any of those skills. And I was like, am I going to still do this? Well, I have to do this. This is what I do. I'm obsessed with it. So I guess I'll have to start learning. And then I started learning. And I lost money for the first year. A lot of money. I spent whatever I had was reinvested into trying to build what I have now.
You went to school with it, essentially.
Yeah. And I traveled and I interviewed people for my YouTube channel, and I had a small staff that I barely could, I couldn't really pay them. Marijuana was illegal at the time, and a guy in Winnipeg who really liked what I was doing was like, I'll send you a pound of marijuana as a tribute. And I gave it to him. Because he liked marijuana, and so like things like that. Like I had nothing.
Yeah.
I spent everything.
You were trading. You were like, here, yeah.
And along the way, I literally somewhere in there I understood. It was like you have, and I really mean this. And you, Mark, you might completely find this shocking, or I don't know, but I deprioritized money. I said, you do not make decisions on money.
Right.
Make decisions on making this special. So in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or 7 years, what you're working on now will eventually be special. Yeah. And if you don't think about money, but you think about making something great and authentic and real, that takes a long time to get there. You'll probably make more money anyways.
Right.
Yes. And I did.
Right.
I did. I make twice as much as I used to make back then. And I make, I pay all my bills. I do nothing else in the world but study martial arts. And, I'm rewarded for it now. But I had to deprioritize money and prioritize making something special.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's something that people need to understand too, because you're so serious about this. And again, I know even with Mark, like he made a very successful MMA show, but the money's a definite plus.
For sure.
But there is something else on there too we need it. But there's something else too that that comes with the actual creation of the thing that you're doing.
Correct.
And I think that what we're talking about here is everyone could tap into that. Everyone could.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not limited to a creative brain or left-handed or right-brain people. It's not limited to that. Everybody has the potential to touch it.
I totally agree.
But you need to be willing to sacrifice something to actually go there.
Very important.
So while doing that, I actually TSN, my friend Aaron Bronstetter, who works there, was like, what Robin does is special. We don't have it. So he brought me into TSN. And then I did like one-offs of things. That wasn't enough money to live and pay a mortgage. But I wanted to keep, and I loved it, and I was thankful for it, and it helped me get better, and it helped me still do the thing I love. But everything I was doing for free, I made 1,740 1-minute breakdowns for free.
Wow.
1,740. But when I first went to TSN, this guy, so I didn't know any of the people there. There's a lot of brilliant people there. There's a guy there named Ken Volden, and Ken Volden is the vice president of the company. And in some of my experience in life, the vice president of the company isn't the smartest guy.
It's not.
Right?
Yeah.
So I go into this guy's office, and I'm sitting there, and he's talking to me about potentially working there. And I'm not trying to think, I need this, I need this, I need this. I'm trying to think, be honest, be yourself. I was old enough to understand that could be good. So I'm talking to him, and he says, can I see the stuff you do? Aaron was telling me about these breakdowns that you do. And I put them on, and he says, can I see another one? Can I see another one? It's like, this isn't my space. And there are times I'm not sure what you're talking about. He goes, but when I look at, he goes, when I look at it, he's like, how long did that take you? I said, I don't know, like could have been 20, 30 hours. He said, and then how long did it take you to learn enough to do that? I said, I don't know, 10 years. He goes, and then when you made that, like how long did that take? He goes, not sure exactly what you're doing. He goes, but I do know this from experience. He's like, doing that work makes you good. And he's like, I can see all the work you're doing here. Yeah. Therefore, and all of a sudden I'm looking at him going, holy fuck, this vice president of a company really is the smartest guy. He was looking and he was saying the process is the key.
Yeah.
Process. And I walked out of there and I learned that lesson that day from that man. He also gave me a job. So I got two great things from there.
Perfect.
And then I went back and I said, and that's where I got that craftsman mindset. I read that somewhere. A craftsman will fucking make these things. Yeah. He does. And when I say I deprioritize money, I didn't differentiate the paid work and the unpaid work. It was just work. Do the work, you will get better. But I remember very distinctly, just before a couple of key things came in, I'd spent money. I had credit card debt. I had really to the point where it's like, oh my God, like, I'm going to have to do something. I turned to my wife and I'm like, that restaurant is looking for somebody. Should I take a part-time job there? Because I have no problem taking a part-time job.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If I can keep getting better as an artist, ultimately that'll work. Whatever it has to happen to do that, I'm willing to do it.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, doesn't matter. And I just didn't have to do it. A couple of things happened and then I had the good fortune that, things started to work, but I also rejected things. People would say, hey, I'll give you $200 to, I'll give you $200 to put my logo at the end of your thing. But if it wasn't something that made sense to my audience, I was like, that $200 might undermine my freedom to keep getting better.
Right.
But then I'll have $200, and which one's more important?
Which one's more important?
Yeah. So, but getting paid to do what you love is a goal, but it shouldn't be the driver.
I agree.
Being great is the driver, and if that drives you, it should pay off.
When was the moment that it really ramped up there? Or was there? Or is it just like all of a sudden you wake up one day like, whoa?
It started to be incremental. So the more work, TSN was a very important part of that transition, and it's more than that, because this is the best television channel ever in Canada. And I'm a guy who used to give the finger wearing rubber and purple hair. And I'm on the best sports channel in Canadian history. Like, I can't believe that, talking about the UFC. Like, that's
Do you
just
think
so
it's
cool.
weird? Do you think it's kind of weird, though? Because I remember when I would go on TSN on Off the Record with Michael Landsberg, and people were like, where'd you just come from? And I'm like, oh, I just came from the Fight Network. And they're like, hey, is that crazy guy Robin Black there? And I'm like, yeah, he's there. And now it's crazy, because now all the people that used to say you were crazy are not at TSN anymore. You are.
Yeah.
So this is the truth, man. Like, you remember we used to come there, me and my son Dave, and we would do like 20 interviews, like on the radio, TV, everything. And I would be changing my clothes in the car service on the next place, and we'd go to your place always first, and we go to TSN after, and they're like, hey, is that crazy guy Robin Black over there? And I'm like, yeah, he's awesome. But everybody liked you. That's what it didn't matter, but they all liked you, and that's what that must have stuck somewhere along the way.
Maybe, yeah. I haven't made a great deal of enemies. The ones that I've made tend to have a lot of enemies. Yeah, and often, like, that's always sort of my, like, why, and there are very few, but why have I found conflict with this individual? I'm never in conflict with anyone, but then I'll see they're in conflict with a lot of people, and I'll be like, okay, that's okay. Yeah. That's a part of the interaction with these people. But I like people. I like hanging out and chatting. Like, I like learning, and I like hearing new ideas. So, but it's a nice thing to hear that people always like you. And although it's weird, when I was nominated a few times for Analyst of the Year, one of my friends was like, that's voted by your peers. And he's like, they're voting for you because of your skill. He said, because you're not well liked. And I was like, what? I'm not well liked? How did this happen? But then we kind of laughed about it, but I thought about it honestly after. I don't, and this, Mark, you had trolls before anyone had trolls. Yes. You were out there, you were out there doing things as an individual in a world that was scared of individuals. Yeah. But I
thank you for that. Thank you. Yes.
It's true.
It is true. It is true. Yeah.
It's very true. Yeah. But not caring what others think is a superpower. Yeah. It really is. It's a powerful thing. But it's also like, that doesn't mean you want them to dislike you or you want to leave a bad taste in people's mouth. But so I thought about it after. I was like, what? Is that possible? And then I thought, when I go to things where there's fight people everywhere, I'm not chatting with everybody. I'm like talking right into my thing, and I'm like making notes, and I'm like doing work. And maybe, if my friend who said that, picked that up a little bit, it made me think, it's like, it doesn't necessarily matter, but you could take those moments to at least be friendlier to people. Yeah. You get to choose. I don't have to do that, but I could do that. Yeah. And now I think about it sometimes. I'm like, because how someone sees you, this is why you shouldn't care what somebody thinks. Although if you want to be empathetic, you can. Is how someone sees you is entirely their trip. It is entirely through the filter of their world. Yeah. Yes. How they categorize you reflects their thinking. Yeah, correct. How they see the
that's
world.
Right. That's right.
Right. But you can help that if you choose to, depending on how you like to use your time or how much you care about the feelings of others. And I like to care about the feelings of others. You can make a point to make sure that the filter of their world, they feel appreciated, or they feel like you see them at the very least. So I took that on. I made sure to try to take that on and think about it.
We are joined by Robin Black. Now, Robin, there's the word that I love hearing in every video of yours, and it's this: Bink. Yeah. How did that happen?
Yeah. So it's weird. So let me see if I got it right here. So watch. You will see me disappear for a second.
Okay, everybody. Well, I'm commercial
looking break. To see. Oh, actually, I don't. It's in Stratford, but I actually have trademarks on some things. This is enjoy the hostilities.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I have a trademark for the interspecies fighting championships, which is something I created.
Playing Mantis and Murder Hornet.
Get these because yes. So to get a trademark, they're not protected. The goal of the trademark, the United States Patent and Trademark Office is not to protect me. The goal is to protect the audience. So if you can prove that the audience, that you have used something so much that it is likely that a large audience thinks of you when it's there, if you don't trademark it and somebody else is using Enjoy the Hostilities, it will confuse an audience. So to protect that audience from that, you must prove that there is a world of people who associate this with you, and they will protect those people from being affected by someone else using it. That's their motivation.
Interesting.
So, These are the cool things you just learn, right? Yeah. And so when I was told that, and then I had conversations with a guy, because it was Bruce Buffer. Bruce Buffer was like, "Listen, man. And Bruce has." It's time, and I think he's got a couple other ones.
He got it for his brother. Let's get ready to rumble. Yeah. He's the one that did that. He's the one.
I know, and that he was paid at one time $1 million to say that.
To say that,
and he was the only one who could say it. Right. But that is a trademark in action. If I go start saying that, the audience is sort of like, wait a second, I thought
you don't say that.
Somehow this is undermining what I believe or understand or have been. And I could be convinced to buy somebody's energy drink if Mark Pavlich said, "Let's get ready to rumble." It's confusing to the audience.
That's right.
That's why it's there. So I do have one on Bink, which at first they were like, "Well, what is it?" And I was like, "A sound effect? I don't know." But that's how we originally presented it. But then the trademark guy was like, it's formed, and I even think of it this way now. If you ever watch the Smurfs, they were like, go out there and smurf that Smurf right in the fucking Smurf, right? Right? And I think of and I play it and use it that way now, and it's just become a thing. But at first, everybody was screaming, "Oh my God!" Boom!
Yeah.
And it just
it's true.
Started feeling like the idea of commodification is something I pick up on right away, because things can become commodified to me easily. Doesn't mean that's true of the audience, but if I hear something a bunch of times, it loses its value.
Yes.
If you even protecting where we would say, some people don't like to swear, say shit or fuck or whatever, but if you say them enough times, they won't have any power. Right?
Yes.
They will immediately become commodified. The only reason they have any is because you don't use them, right? Yeah. So when people would be yelling and screaming all the time, and I'm enthusiastic, it just wore off on me. So I started going, Bink, and people just started reacting to it. But somewhere along the line, I did consciously realize after 100 of them, I was like, wait a second, this is a thing. This is like actually a thing. Yeah,
it's a thing.
And then Joe Rogan says Bink on broadcast, and then after, because this is who he is.
But it's social
after
tribute.
He says it.
He does.
He'll say it, and he'll go, shout out to Robin Black. Yeah. Right in the broadcast, right on the pay-per-views. And I know his bosses probably don't like that, but he's got the freedom to do what he wants. He's Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
He does that. But if you look back early Joe Rogan, he was an early, very early viral thing was Joe Rogan on stage with Mencia giving him shit for stealing other comedians' jokes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So to Joe Rogan and his
it's a big deal.
His justice, his sense of justice.
Yeah, he's right.
If you say Bink, that's Robin Black. So you gotta say it, and it's just. He's a real special guy.
Robin, how many times in life have you learned a move from someone in martial arts, and then you were showing it to somebody else, and you would say, "Oh, Paul Vunok showed me this in 1997. You can't remember what you had for lunch yesterday, but you remember in 1997 that Frank Shamrock, when I was at his house, showed me this move, and that this person, Boss Rutan, showed me this move." And I always show tribute to that, and people are like, why do you always bring that, like their name, who showed you it? Because I said, I never invented the move, right? They showed it to me in Capistrano Beach in 1999, and this is the exact move. And they were like, what'd you have for lunch yesterday? I'm like, I have no clue. But I remember who showed me how to do a standing Kimura. I remember who showed me all these things, and it's a very strange process. But
if you ask Boss, he would tell you who showed him that move too.
Yes, he would.
He would say in 1996, I was in wherever and I learned that move.
And that's what he did. Like, it was crazy because he didn't invent it either, right? And but like you were saying about Joe Rogan, I had I told you the story. Like, we had a crazy thing one time between him and I. And then when it was over, he was like the nicest human being ever and literally shouted me out in front of a room full of people at some thing. He was doing a comedy show right on stage. And he said, hey, he dropped a few F-bombs and he said, hey, you know who's here tonight? And I was like, who's here? And I'm looking around, and he's like, this guy's the king of MMA in Canada. You guys, have no idea. And he showed me out in front of like 2,000 people. And I was like, wow, like he didn't need to do that. Right. And he did. He's
a
special.
gem, man.
Yeah.
I remember once he had done a bunch of things like that for me and I was texting him and we'll text, but I'm very careful. This guy, and not that you overthink how you communicate with your friends, but this guy's the busiest human being I know. And if he gives me his phone number, and I know he doesn't give it to every guest he has, but he's had 1,000 guests. So if he gave him to 1 out of 10, that's 100 guests, plus everyone in the UFC, plus every comedian he knows, plus. You don't bug your friend when you know that he must be bombarded by people. But every now and again, we will text, we'll get into a little chat, and that'll last for 20 minutes or 40 minutes or an hour. And sometimes late at night, it was an hour or two. And I remember once I said to him, man, thank you so much for a couple of things you've done for me. I said, honestly, when we bought our little house in the country, I don't think I would have been able to buy it if it wasn't for a couple of things that you did, recommending me to Dana that led to work, et cetera. And he literally, I remember word for word, he said, the best part about having a platform like I have is promoting bad motherfuckers like you.
Wow.
And which of course that's his wording, but I remember looking at it and just going, literally I can see that guy just happily thinking that. And it's not me. There's 100 people he's put over like that. It's just a part of how he sees the world. And I'm not the only person that you'll have on your podcast. You do another 100, there'll be somebody else who will tell you, I owe a lot to Joe Rogan. There'll be a few in your life. Yeah. Also, I will tell you, I don't know, Mark, have you met, what's his name? Oh God, I'm just forgetting briefly. A comedian from Mississauga, brown guy, Canadian.
Russell.
Yeah.
Russell.
Do you know Russell?
Russell Peters, right? Russell Peters.
Yes.
Do I get it right?
Yes, Russell Peters.
Yeah.
Russell Peters,
I've seen him a few times. Yeah.
So I feel awful. I forgot his name, but I'm exhausted. I was doing jiu-jitsu for 5 hours today with Justin Bruckman. So yeah, you know Justin.
I do. Yeah.
So Russell, I was in a room, and Russell, I have a painting. I used to be here. It's a painting of Ronda Rousey, and Russell bought it for me. The first day I met him, I was at a thing, and he was DJing, and a guy came over and he said, hey, Mr. Black, Russell wants to meet you. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And of course, Russell's a massive boxing and MMA fan, martial artist, boxer, everything. And I go meet him, and we chat for 10 minutes, and there was a guy named Justin Bua, who's a brilliant artist. And I'm like, man, your work is great. And it's like work of fighters. And he goes, you like anything? I go, oh, man, I like that one. And, man, my friends John and Jen would go crazy for that one. And, like, 10 minutes later, he brought it to me, and they said Russell bought them for me. They were like $900. Like, it was not nothing, right? Like, I wouldn't have bought them because it was a lot of money, but then I had them. And then he said, come over to my house. Mayweather's fighting tonight. I went over. I'm slow dancing with his mom. It was crazy. He's the most generous person. So somehow I'm in my house, and I have a few people over. And one of them, his name is Todd Shapiro. Todd used to work in radio. Now he has his own radio show. And someone brings up Russell Peters. And I said, when Joe Rogan met Russell, the first time he was like, man, I love your watch. And Russell took it off and gave it to him. Wow. And then I told the story of the painting, and the guy sitting there, Todd, is like, you guys are not going to believe this. And I'm like, what? And he goes, Russell bought me this sweater. Sweater he was wearing on his back. He's like, Russell gave me this. Because I guess he gets things for free, and Todd knew him.
Sure.
Place. And he's like, he literally gave me this. And it's like, just think of how cool that is, that when you're going through the world, and for Russell doesn't even know this. He doesn't even know we're having this conversation. But when he's traveling through the world, when he encounters people, their story about him is he was loving and kind and generous
right.
and
Yeah.
giving.
Exactly.
Like, isn't that amazing?
Yes.
You know?
That is, yeah.
That is that's kind of the
goal.
purpose.
Yeah.
When I think about it too. But
Yeah.
we haven't even talked about the music career, because I feel that this wasn't just a flash in the pan for you, that you were just as passionate about this. Number one, do you still perform? Number two, what's with the rubber and the purple hair?
Yeah. So good questions on all fronts. I do a little bit perform, but very little. When I met my wife, actually, so my wife's in musical theater.
Yeah.
She was in, when I met her, she was in We Will Rock You, which was the music of Queen.
Yes.
She was hired straight out of college on an open audition by Brian May.
Wow.
So because, and Mark, you saw her perform.
Yeah, she's legit. She's got talent. Yeah.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden when I heard her sing, I was like, oh, that's what singing is actually like. And I'm not saying I never sung again, but I suddenly realized, I'd always realized there were levels, but then and I realized that in all things. But and there's some truth to what I'm saying. I had that experience where I was like, oh, fuck, okay, right. That's what that is. When I first saw her perform. But truthfully, by that point, martial arts had already kind of taken the predominant role in my life. And I did love performing. And this is a great lesson for me, an important part of my experience of learning how to learn and learning how to live. And is when I was playing, I was a good performer, really good performer. I was funny. I could hold an audience. The shit I said was cool. I dressed like in an interesting way that was provocative and fun. I did high kicks. I had a lot of skills, but I was a shitty singer, and I never worked on it. I never did.
Yeah.
And I tried to find all these other Band-Aids. I got great producers. I had a skilled band. I learned to write interesting lyrics, everything but the voice. And there was something about when you went to fight people in a cage, it was like, it doesn't matter what color shorts you wear. Like if you can't, if you haven't trained to fight, none of the other shit will matter.
Yeah, you'll be exposed.
Yeah.
You'll be exposed.
You'll be exposed.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, I loved performing. I loved writing. I loved being an artist. I loved a lot of the things about it. I loved getting chased by hotter girls than I had any right to meet. You know, a lot of the things. I loved traveling and performing and holding the audience and running the party. That's always how I saw it. Yes, I'm singing, but I'm running this party, and it's going to be a great one. And it always was, you know. But if singing or being a musician was the important thing to me, I'd have worked harder on it instead of working harder on being a performer. And so I loved all of the things around it, but martial arts, I love doing it. Like I said, I trained today for 4 hours because I need to keep learning my craft. You know, I need to understand it in different ways. I need to be a better martial artist. It makes my life better. Whereas being a performer, there were many things about it I loved, but the root of the thing I actually neglected.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, that takes a lot of self-awareness to recognize that part of it.
Years too, because I did it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's right.
I did it until 5 years ago. But something about the path, something about that really changed the way I look at things. Like, you know, when I was 18 or 20, I remember thinking, I wish I knew how to play guitar. And then at 25, I remember thinking, I wish I could play guitar. And for a brief moment, I thought, you know, if you started at 20 when you thought this last time, you'd be a good guitar player already.
That's right.
And I still didn't do it. And then when I decided I was going to fight and live as a martial artist and do what I authentically felt like was my actual calling, those lessons of that, it started from day one. I have to learn to do this, and I have to do the work. And if I'm not there yet, I have to do it again tomorrow.
It's so interesting when you put it in that aspect, because when you really look at it the way you were just explaining it, I would have bet a lot of money about the band. Like that was you would die on that sword. Like I've known you for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
I would have bet a large sum of money today that you would have said, I would rather be playing in a band. I would rather be leading a band. I'd rather be in a huge music festival somewhere in Sweden, playing, jamming out, than doing what you're doing today. And you said the complete opposite what I thought. Because I thought, no way, I would have bet like a large sum of money.
Wow.
Yeah, because it just came across, like, if you read about it, if you see about it, you did music festivals in England.
Yeah.
You did all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's not like you were just dabbling. You were in a garage band, right? Like it was it was farther than that. So to say what you said just now, I was kind of like, wow, I thought, no way. I thought if you would put all your chips in, you'd want to be playing in a band somewhere.
No, in fact, this is a really great conversation. I'm learning a lot just by saying these things out loud and hearing you guys' perspectives. But I would have quit a lot earlier.
Wow.
But we were kind of successful.
Yeah, you were.
You were. It felt like I couldn't because it would be a crime. It would be unfair. So many people wish they could be touring in England and doing all these things.
To that level.
Yeah. And so I wasn't allowed to stop. And then when I did stop, there were a few elements. I had a seizure from alcohol and drugs and Red Bull and hard living.
The combo.
And actually, the doctor actually said it was the Red Bull. He said that was the biggest ingredient because when the alcohol, and so the drugs kept you awake long enough to drink vodka and Red Bull. You didn't eat. And when the alcohol left your system, it drew out all your sugars, and the Red Bull made your sugars crash even further. Yeah. And so I had a hypoglycemic seizure. And then after that, I literally was like, what the fuck? Am I going to die out here? Like Mark said, die on the sword out there.
Yeah.
I actually didn't want to do that. And I was like, if I start over, and I was probably 35 or 36. I had my first MMA fight 10 days before my 39th birthday.
Crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
I know.
Crazy, man.
So crazy. But I literally was like, if you're gonna start again, what should you do? And and I explored all kinds of things. Like I was watching a lot of cop shows at the time, and I still do. There's something about it I love. Like, and they don't show cops anymore, but like First 48 or whatever. And I was like, will they hire somebody to be a cop at 35? And I'm like, no, you can't be a cop. And then I'm like, okay, what can I do? Like, do maybe a marketing company. And I was a hairdresser for many years during the music career. I was a hairdresser for a long time, and I was good at it. And I was like, should I go back to hairdressing? And I actually did. Actually, I never left hairdressing, come to think of it. I was still a hairdresser playing through a band. And when I decided I was going to fight, I would go to walk up about a 30-minute walk, and I would train 2 hours from 7 to 9. Then I'd eat breakfast, and I'd go cut hair from 10 to about 11:30. So I'd do 2 to 3 haircuts. I'd walk back up and I'd train from 12 to 1. I'd come back from 1:30 and I'd cut hair until 5, and then I'd go train in the evening. And I did this for the first year. And because you had to pay the bills while trying to learn the craft, and I only stopped fighting when I finally got a job at stopped doing hair when I got a job at Extreme Couture. I was still hair cutting up until my first pro MMA fight.
Wow.
Yeah. Not afraid of work. Yeah.
No, that's an Ontario thing. That's an Ontario. Yeah, that's an Ontario thing.
I grew up in Manitoba, and they were like farmers from central Manitoba.
Yeah,
that's a farmer from central Manitoba thing too.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is.
Well, everybody, we've been joined by Robin Black. Robin, I mean, when I was thinking about this interview and where it would go, I was with Mark. I thought maybe, there's some things that you'd like with the music stuff that you would go to more. But what I'm really in love with, actually, is your philosophy of how you're looking at your career and how you look at your life and how you look at the world around you, too. Because I think now when I'm going to watch your videos, I'm going to add that into the all the other brilliance that comes along with it, because there is a lot in there. And I think I just want to thank you for being so honest and open about that journey, because I think it actually will help a lot of people too. And maybe, hey, I don't know, maybe that story needs to come out even more, because I think that's something that a lot of people, especially the ones trying to find the thing that they want to do, that they struggle with. And I can relate to that story so much. And I just really want to thank you for sharing that with us and all our viewers tonight.
Well, I thought it was funny because you and Jesse are long lost brothers. So, Robin, you don't know Jesse, but I know him for many years, and you two are so alike. It is frightening beyond frightening.
I can feel it, actually.
You should be feeling this cross the screen thing going on, because you're very similar. And the crazy part about it is that you can only relate. You can relate to everybody. I understand that. You can, Robin, you could go in any room, you're going to relate to everybody, but you can only amalgamate with people. You're welcome. You're going to amalgamate with people that are like the same kind of like crookedness as you have. And I don't mean crookedness, but you have to be off kilter. You have to be off kilter a little bit, because I understood. Now, if you would ask me 6-7 years ago if I understood what Jesse just said, I would have said no. But being around for the last 5 years, I really understood what he just said, because I'm like, wow, like he's right, because everybody goes, oh, it's funny and this and that, but when people watch your videos now, it's different. The thought process. It's not a here, I just quickly made this. That's not what it is. So hence why people like TSN, people like Bellator, people like all these other people have gone and hired you. And I get a good kick out of it, because I'm like, here, it's a newsflash, everybody. When I was big in the MMA world, guess who stayed all the time and would talk after with us at the Fight Network? And they go, who? I go, it was Robin Black. And then I said, when I was in the MMA business, there was nobody bigger in this country putting on shows. But it was funny when I went to the other TV networks and other things like that, there were some guys that stuck around and said, hey, Mark. Yeah. But I said, watch what happens. Watch what happens one day to Robin Black. And people thought I was nuts. They're like, oh, he's crazy. What does Mark Pavlich know? He don't know nothing about MMA. So,
listen, Mark knows talent.
Yes, that's all I know. That's all I know.
He recognizes it.
Listen, I don't know nothing, but I know talent. And unfortunately, I know who doesn't have it. My poor daughter wanted to sing, so I got her singing lessons. And she was a good singer. She was a good singer, but one day she's singing and I said, honey, are you practicing? And she said, nah, not really, Dad. I go, honey, stop singing. You're good. You're good for like around here or whatever, but that's as far as it's going to go. And she was very young at the time, but I had to let her down off the ledge to tell her, you're not going to be the next Beyonce, honey. It's not going to happen. I love you, but no. If you're not going to practice, you're not going to rehearse, you're not going to obsessively be involved with this, it's not going to work. Because anything I've ever made money with, like you said earlier, I didn't try to make money. It just got so crazy in my mind that one day my wife looked at me and said, honey, we're making money. And I was like, we are. Oh my God, let's go. And I was like, now this is crazy, right? Because now you're making money with what you love. And I wish that for everybody in the world. I really do. I swear to God, when I see some of my friends, they're gutting out their job, and I'm like, listen, man, I don't want to get weird, but I pray and I say, guys, let them, whatever they love doing, like home construction, I don't care, pet daycare, I don't care what it is, whatever you love, if you could do that and make a living with it, you are that 1%. You're that 1% in the world that's doing it. I'm telling you. And Robin, you did it. So that's for me. I'm like, oh, we're roughly the same age, but I always look at you as younger than me, and I go, oh, my little brother made it. It's like, And you know what? And this is a part that you learned in martial arts. You go, right, when I even say that, you kind of get shy. You're like, oh, like I don't want to acknowledge that I'm doing okay. And Jesse's the same way, right? Anytime that happens, he's like, oh, I don't want to take that. I don't want to take that credit. But what I'm telling you, this is the show today. Like, we're here now, so let's celebrate it, right? And people should know that, and people should go, listen, Robin Black's not saying that, I'm saying that because it's true. I'm not saying anything that's not true, because I saw the grind. I saw it. So it's not like you're telling the story about, I really grinded and poor me. Yeah. No, bro. I was there 15, 20 years ago. And people are like, and then some people at some other networks, I won't say their name on the show, right? I won't say any of their name. Yeah. Like Sportsnet. Some of those guys over there were saying certain things. And I'm like, well, it's interesting how they're not in the business anymore. And you are. But you never said anything about them. Not one time. Time. So that's what I find. And I believe it's called poetic justice. Not even that you were looking for it, but that's what happened.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I do believe that people could do the thing that they love. I do. I think it will take a little longer than they think,
Yeah,
but a lot longer than they think it'll feel like.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if it took if somebody sat down any 25-year-old and said, if I could guarantee you for sure, no matter what, if you do this at 32, you'll do the thing you love.
Yeah, no.
They would do it.
They would, yeah.
If it's a guaranteed 32, they'd be like, that's a long time. Are you sure it's a guarantee? And you'd say, yes, it's a guarantee. They'd be like, okay, I'll do it. The weird thing is, it kind of is a guarantee because, like, if you deprioritize money in a lot of ways, and people will when I say this, people will go, it's easy for you to say you have money. But when I started doing it, I had zero, and I was deeply in debt.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's harder to do when you have zero.
Yeah.
But if you do that, and you think to yourself, minimize my expenses and figure out what I need to live on, what can I do to make that? And then whatever other time I have, spend it entirely building something of my own.
100%.
Everyone can do that. It might take 10 years, but 10 years goes by real fast.
Does it ever?
It really does.
Does it ever?
Yeah,
Jeez.
it really does.
Well, Robin, once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure, and
Part two's coming, 6 months from now.
Yeah.
But there's some people I have to have back because this is part one of Robin Black. Part two will come in 6 months. Everybody,
I'm ready. I'm ready, and I can't wait.
Don't worry.
Knew this was going to be a pleasure, and it really, really was. And I'm so glad we got to hang out. I don't want to wait 6 months to chat with you guys, though.
No, of course.
No,
Text
absolutely
me and
not.
Jesse, let's be in touch.
Yes,
100% we will. That's awesome.
100%.
And again, everybody, you have to tune into Robin stuff because truly it is great. I love it. I laugh I just watched the two meth head. What is it? Meth head?
Yes. Neighborhood karate. Shirtless Steve versus meth Steve.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, Robin, truly again, another for Mark and myself, another amazing guest that we have.
Wow.
You're right up there with all the other ones we've had, and I think again, getting to know you a little more and the viewers to get to know you more has been a great benefit for all of us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Can I say my trademark before we go?
Yeah, 100%.
For you guys, it's free.
No, we won't get a bill. I'm perfect.
Enjoy the hostilities, my friends.
All right. Thanks so much, Robin.
Bink.
Awesome, man.
Oh man, what
it was like a family reunion, right? I mean,
so cool.
I've known him for 20 years, and like I told people a long time ago, my son and I would be there. My son was like, this guy's awesome, man. Like he's just a nice person, and you got that vibe from him all the time. And like I told people before, we would go to other places, and they were like, okay, 6 minutes in, you're out, boom, nothing. Michael Landsberg was great. Robin was fantastic. And that's what people have to understand. That did pay off for him. That paid off.
And again, how much can I relate to that in my own thing? And
of course,
when he says 1,700 videos, I vlogged for a few years, and he like everyone, a lot of people are like, well, we're not making any money. You're not making any money. You're not making any money. And you're like, I see something bigger. I see something else. There's something I'm actually possessed with that I have to go after here. And and again, I think that's a big lesson for a lot of people.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Our podcast. We went X amount of years
4 years
before getting money, and now we're making money, and it's like I'm not surprised, but did I think it would happen sooner? But yeah, of course you do. But people are going again.
People discount the school. People discount.
Yeah.
And I don't mean going to an institution. I'm talking about the school of life, the school of hard knocks, if you want to say, like we used to back in the day. But that school, that where you put in the time, you put in the effort, you put in probably more effort and drive than you do if you actually went to school, because everything hinges on it. Everything, you don't have money. Nobody's doing it for you. You have to teach yourself. And you have to go through the growing pains of everything, but then when it comes out the other end, it's always more beautiful. It's always more. It's always better. I can't explain it. It's happened to me over and over and over again in my life, and it's awesome to hear when other people have the same story, because I think that a lot of people need to understand that. I mean, people say, Mark and I have done this for 4 years, and it was about mental health and about that kind of stuff, and now it's about sports. it doesn't mean that you leave out the rest of the thing, because what we're discovering is that most of these athletes have had the same story, is that you have to do something else. It's bigger than sports. It's bigger than doing that. It's about a lifestyle that you have to put yourself into. And a lot of the character of these people that we've had on the show, it's proven it time and time again.
But what did Robin say? Right before you're ready to stop. You're ready to stop. You were doing it for 8 years, 9 years. You're like, oh, this is over.
Oh my gosh.
I got to stop. I got to stop. And he was right. You know, it's the way it works. It's like there's no time limit on it. There's no time limit on when you're going to get paid. Unfortunately, there's not. So you have to, you're either going to consistently keep going, or you go, and there's also people that go, I'm going to stop now. Because it's 20 years and I haven't made any money for it.
And maybe some people need to, you know, because maybe it is time for some. But again, I think for the majority, I think if you're actually working it and being like what he said about self-awareness is really important, because that's where people really miss, I think, because they're not self-aware. They don't examine themselves. They just worry about what everyone else thinks about it. And that's a big mistake. But you know, again, another great guest. I mean, the hits just keep on hitting.
You know, it's funny. When we're getting guests, but we're noticing our guests. Once again, I tell everybody, they're like, oh, Mark, you should get this guy and this guy and this guy. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to ask you one question. Could you imagine the individual that you just said on the show for 1 hour, which Robin Black was just on for 1 hour?
1 hour there.
1 hour, and basically that it flowed like perfectly. And you say to yourself, could you imagine? And they say, oh, sorry. I didn't put it in perspective of actually talking to a guest for 1 hour or 45 minutes to an hour on a show. That's a different type of guest. We have a different podcast, the Me and Jesse podcast. The difference is you're going to see people on the show coming up. You're going to see
who's next week?
Louis DeBrusque, Kelly Rudy.
Kelly Rudy's next week.
Kelly Rudy's next week. Louis DeBrusque is the week after. And Darren McCarthy is the week after. Like, do you understand what I just said, people? You want to learn about people that been in the game and have been knocked down.
I'm so excited next week, as you can see on screen, Kelly Rudy's coming. Kelly Rudy, I mean, to me, I think he is the smartest analyst in hockey today. I think I love how he talks, and I've heard a lot of his interviews, and he's super genuine, and I'm really excited about that. Following Louis DeBrusque, who I've personally met, and the guy's
awesome.
He's a great guy. Very much looking forward to that.
Did you see his kid? His kid today donated $25,000 to the Foundation for Kids Without Equipment.
Oh,
so his son Jake DeBrusque did that. Okay, now let me tell you that. Jake learned that from Louis.
Yes,
okay,
that's
somewhere along the way, and I'm giving Jake all the credit in the world for doing it. It's a stand-up move, but his father instilled that in his mind somewhere along the way. And good on you, Jake. First class all the way. It's a class move. 25 G's today for the equipment for kids that didn't have it. And I'm telling you, that comes from lineage. You know, lineage. Lineage. Thank you. Problem. For the correction. Thank you. I just walked 46 kilometers. Give me a break.
I'm not accusing you of anything.
Hiked. So what I'm trying to say is it's something special.
Yeah.
The guests we have coming up
very exciting.
If you told me when we flipped the switch on this, my son Dave Pavlich was the one that drilled it in my head. Dave. Thank you, Dave. You get a plug, Dave. Concept clothing. Go. You get a plug today. You get a plug.
Although I could use a new jacket.
He made me a new suit jacket. It is something to talk. Oh, I can't. I can't even. I might have to wear it on the show. I think
that's
what
I mean.
It's nice. It's nice. Yeah. We'll work on that concept.
Dave, you know my size.
Yeah, he actually does. So concept.com, I'll figure out it's a hard way to spell concept. So Google it, Concept Clothing. My son, it was his idea to do this, and he was right 100%. And I'm telling you, talk about fun. Like, is this not fun? Exactly. This is fun. We study, we find out who to get on the show, and me and you put a lot of thought process on who our guests are going to be. And there's lots of people about it. Yeah, we do. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that want to be on our show, and we're not trying to be rude to anybody, but they can't hang for an hour on this show. They can't.
The crazy part, next week, our guest, Kelly Rudy, like I said, literally, Mark 2 minutes before I called him and said we should get Kelly Rudy, he just messaged him, and we were like, this will be and Kelly, of course, the great guy he is, said yes, absolutely, he's going to be live next week on the show. Of course, we always appreciate all of our viewers, all of the commenters, all of the likers and the shares. But big thank you and big shout out to one of our sponsors, Boston Pizza. Terry, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Hampton and Windermere. Make sure you head over, maybe, watch some fights.
We're gonna ask him that too, guys. So tune in. We're gonna make sure that locally, we're gonna ask Terry. We're gonna ask him. We're gonna find out for next week and the week after. We're gonna find out when they're gonna start playing those fights in there again.
There's big fight this week.
Yeah. Which one?
Isn't Israel fighting this week?
Is it this week?
I thought it was this Saturday. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, maybe you're right. I told you I'm discombobulated here, man. I just 46 kilometers for breast cancer. Everest and Edmonton, everybody.
Too many.
Too many.
Well, until next time.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Is Mark Pavlich. Thank you so much, Robin, for joining us on the show today. Please follow Robin Black MMA on all social media. And, until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the Me and Jesse podcast, the most exciting 60 minutes you spent on the internet this week. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks for watching the Me and Jesse podcast. Follow us at facebook.com/Me and Jesse.